Hello everyone, welcome back to reading my novel Baby It's Cold Outside. We are going to start today with chapter 3. Let's go, chapter 3. Okay, chapter 3. How many times am I going to say that? Anyway, last night Maggie had the most terrible shower she'd ever experienced. She stepped under the shower head, getting ready to wash away the events of the day, when she was blasted by a pail of ice. She shrieked and quickly turned the water off, hearing what sounded suspiciously like a deep male chuckle at the door, then continued to take care of her ablutions and cowboy splashed in the basin. She really had no desire to wash in the icy cold water, but she hated feeling dirty or sticky, which were feelings she often associated with being sick or injured. She also had no other options besides the basin or shower, and decided she would be less cold using the basin. The task had taken her over an hour with her injury, even though she finished as quickly as possible, spurred on by the possibility of food as her stomach growled. She hadn't really meant what she said about there being no food yesterday. She just felt like being whiny at that point. Food on the fire took considerably longer than on the stove and was often burnt on the outside and raw on the inside. Though as hungry as she was, she'd have eaten cheese with a wrapper over it. Maggie had shook her head at the thought and chuckled lightly, then followed the smell of meat that greeted her nostrils as she exited the bathroom. Daniel, she saw, once moving to what looked like the lounge, was hovering over at the fireplace, cursing furiously about something or someone stupid as he tended the fire. She noticed a small black metallic pot sitting on the logs. She also noted with a touch of disappointment that he was wearing some type of black long-sleeve t-shirt that covered his delicious physique. While she missed the view, Maggie could understand why he had the desire to be fully dressed. The bedroom was warmer, but she felt something closer to the real temperature as soon as she left the room, even though there was a small fire burning. He was glancing repeatedly at the fire and back to his arm, where she noticed the watch where his sleeve had been rolled up. She didn't mind him bending over the fire, and was loath to disturb him because it afforded her a lovely view of his derriere. She bit her lip and smiled. She never considered herself an ass person, but with the fine specimen before her, it was hard not to be impressed at the current object of her affection, covered in a dark grey denim, posed in the air for her view. Maggie assumed he was trying to make food for the two of them, and found it incredibly hard not to remain angry at Daniel for what she assumed were his earlier slip-ups. He was so unconsciously kind and thoughtful. He had alluded to the fact that he had set aside a few things for her, but she had assumed that it was just a few things to wear, plus the long johns, which were something similar to leggings. But it had been so much more than that. He had included a small bag with the clothing, which included a towel, a deliciously male-smelling soap, and some underarm, a toothbrush, a hairbrush, some toothpaste, a few hair ties, and a pair of warm booty slippers, which she now wore. All of the items were new. Truly, it was a mission to remain angry with him, and if he could just stop scowling and start smiling more, it would be easy for a girl to fall in love with him. She sighed before she even realized what she had thought, but blushed and bit her lip shyly when he turned around and caught her ogling him. He looked surprised and twisted around to see if there was something there. Maggie bit her lip once again to quell the laugh that wanted to burst from her lips, and decided to draw his attention to something else before he realized what she'd been doing. "Smells good." She moved forward with her chair crutch. He grunted in reply and turned back to his task. It seemed that while she could not remain angry with him, he could remain angry with her. He was just the most infuriating. "What are you making?" she asked with such fake sweetness she could get a toothache. "Sausages," was the only reply he gave her. She growled softly, reminding herself that he saved her life so that her temper could abate. And that was pretty much how the evening went. Him grunting and being short, and her trying not to pop an aneurysm, trying to be civil. He may not like her nickname, but she liked her real name even less, and only one other person knew it besides her family and French bulldog Jared. She didn't trust Daniel enough to let him into that circle just yet. The meal, a mix of sausage, baked potato, and beans, had been delightful, but would have been perfect if Daniel had not been so grumpy or so cute when he blushed as she complimented the fare. Daniel's emotions were a damn roller coaster ride, she thought and growled. Maggie, who now lay in bed, turned over in the soft blue cotton sheets and groaned in frustration at the memory, but hoped that today would be different. Daniel had changed the sheets while she had been busy in the bathroom. The sweet little annoyance that he was. Sheets that she now ran her hands across and sighed. She smiled sadly and hoped he might smile again too, because it was miserable to be around him when he was like this, even though she didn't really know if this was what he was really like all the time. She suspected that he wasn't. She couldn't imagine anyone wanting to remain miserable on purpose. She was sorely tempted to tell him her name so they could go back to being like normal people, but silently acknowledged that she was too stubborn to cave. Someone would have to be really strong to move her. Not physically strong, she thought, absently rubbing at her throat, and simultaneously drew the blankets closer around her. She was determined to be cheerful, and have a good holiday, despite the circumstances. Both her ex and Daniel could go to hell if they were going to try to ruin her life for her, even for one day. She was never living with her back to a corner ever again. Maggie was about to get out of the bed when she heard a loud expletive coming from the lounge. Daniel was furious when he woke up. The glance at his wristwatch told him that the time was 9:05 a.m., yet the wall clock said 12:36 p.m. The damn thing must have stopped working last night, he realized with disgust, and threw it under the coffee table before the couch he lay on. Not only would his precious schedule be interrupted for one more day, but he would be rushing to finish every task. That and breakfast would become lunch, etc., 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 he thought irritably. He was startled into sitting up on the couch when the door to his bedroom was thrown open and a one-legged creature in droopy flannels with hair standing in every direction rushed towards the living room. "Daniel? Daniel?" she called out worriedly before spotting him seated casually in his flannels on the couch. Daniel scowled and rushed to catch her before she fell to the ground from exhaustion. "Are you crazy?" he asked, holding her up under her arms and fitting her body closely against his. "For her safety," he assured himself. "You could have hurt yourself." Everywhere his skin touched hers, she tingled. "Good morning," she said, panting, trying to distract herself as she looked up into his now stormy, now greyish blue eyes. "Glad to see you're fine, and I rushed out to help you for nothing." Daniel did a double take as if she had slapped him. "You came to check if I was okay?" he asked suspiciously. "Why wouldn't I?" she asked angrily as he seated her on the couch she'd been on just moments before. "I heard you and thought something may have gone wrong," she ended off dryly. Oh, he finished lamely. He was stunned. It had been so long since someone had cared about him. He wasn't sure how to respond or how to feel. All he knew was that he liked it and could get used to it very quickly. "No need to thank me," Maggie huffed under her breath and eased herself further back on the couch so she could swing her bare feet onto it. Thank you," he stammered slightly and looked away blushing. Maggie chuckled and tisked. "You act as if you haven't been helped in ages." Daniel was back to scowling in an instant as he propped her foot up beneath some pillows and moved off to the kitchen without responding to the remark. Maggie's exasperated sigh followed him all the way there, and he almost found himself smiling. Almost. "So, Daniel," she called out, "what exactly is it that you do?" Maggie was desperately hopeful that he wouldn't brush her off and would help to make things more comfortable for her in his home. "This and that," was his reply as he searched the cupboards for his first aid kit. He'd totally forgotten to wrap her foot up yesterday and cursed himself for being an idiot again. He wasn't usually so unprepared, but her presence in his home was a major distraction. He didn't want to like Maggie, but she was like a fresh breeze on a warm summer day. Everything she did was unexpected to him. He pegged that down to the fact that he was only used to selfish people and their selfish actions. even though he had to acknowledge that the last human contact he'd had was about 10 years ago, and he could just be a little rusty. Maggie sighed loudly again, and this time Daniel did grin when he heard her mutter, "Lord help me." "What?" she shouted, but blushed prettily and lowered her voice when he came into the room with a red box in hand. "What kind of things do you do?" "I eat, I sleep." The look she gave him silenced him. She was not amused. He couldn't help but outright grin. He enjoyed teasing her because he could count on her immediate reaction to amuse him. Slowly, she too smiled back but shook her head whilst doing so, as if she couldn't help it and found that strange. "I clean, I invest, I write, I cook, I work out, I make videos." He was basically listing his itinerary for the day to her, and shrugged. He then moved forward, kneeled, and put the box on the floor at his side. "What kind of videos do you make?" she asked suspiciously. Daniel chuckled. "What? Do you think I make pornos in my cabin in the woods?" "What? No!" she squeaked as her face flushed and she focused her attention on pulling a piece of non-existent fluff off the armrest of the couch. It would be non-existent because Daniel hated untidiness. It represented chaos to him, and he hated chaos. Everything had to be under his control. Daniel's chuckle rumbled through his chest as he looked at her and shook his head. "There are other kinds of videos that can be made," he teased. "I know, it's just... You're ridiculously good looking, and some people are into that kind of thing. Not that I'm judging, I just..." Maggie babbled uncomfortably until Daniel placed his fingers over her lips to shush her. He was still chuckling, but her lips tingled under his touch until he moved his hand away, flexed it and stared at it in confusion, then shook his head. Was it possible he felt that too? She wondered as butterflies flit about in her stomach, and she took a few silent breaths to calm herself down. "I make videos of myself cooking," he said, "and upload them to the internet." "Not the naked chef kind of videos, I take it." Daniel barked out a laugh. "What is it with you and me naked?" Instantly, he realized the words that left his mouth, and Daniel subsequently hung his head in embarrassment and blushed a bright magenta. Maggie's hands jumped to her face to cover it, shock clearly seen by her widened green eyes. I didn't mean to say that, I didn't mean to imply that." He stopped trying to explain his mistake, noticing her bouncing shoulders. You are laughing at me." She didn't deny it. She let go of her mouth and roared her laughter, all the while shaking her head in the affirmative. He didn't actually feel humiliated by her laughter. He found that he really enjoyed that too. It was a low chuckle, but she took deep breaths in between chuckles, making the experience very amusing to him too. Once her laughter had subsided, Maggie spoke. "What a pair we must make, the one-legged raunchy pirate and the Adonis." She was smiling down at him on the floor. Having her here was working wonders for his ego, he mused. In fact, he was considering keeping her. In order to stop the flow of his thoughts, not to mention having nothing to say to that, Daniel changed the topic. Can I check out your foot?" "Sure," Maggie said, hoping she didn't sound too eager to have his hands on her once again, and slowly swung her feet with minor discomfort to face him. "Does it hurt? Did it hurt last night?" Daniel asked tenderly at first, but at the second question his eyes burned with a little anger. "Well, if you must know, it kept me awake last night for a little bit, and it's paining right now, but I can handle a little discomfort," she replied a little haughty, and unconsciously raised her chin. Daniel looked at her sympathetically. "I didn't mean to insult you, Maggie. I was just angry at myself for not taking care of it sooner." "Oh," was Maggie's reply, and she felt the heat flow right out of her face. Her shoulders also slumped a bit, and not knowing what to say besides that, she bit her lip, kept her mouth closed, enjoying that tingly feeling as he lifted her foot and examined it. She wondered if perhaps she'd been too sensitive because he too kept quiet whilst dressing her foot in bandages, only reacting if she showed discomfort in some way. But he spoke soon after. "That should heal in a couple of days, but hopefully you'll be up and walking sooner. Maybe even before the power goes back on." He shrugged. "Maybe I'll be out of your hair before then," Maggie replied with a teasing smile as Daniel put the remainder of his supplies into the medikit. Yeah, Daniel replied, but his head was lowered as he looked in the box, so she couldn't see his face, but he sounded tight-lipped to her. Daniel, in truth, was not certain why there was a slight pang in his chest at the thought of her leaving. Oh well, Maggie said with a sigh, no use discussing something we don't know. Daniel grunted in the affirmative and got up to put the box back in its place. They would know soon enough. I'm about to make some food. Why don't you go and take a shower in the meantime? Daniel asked, wanting to put a bit of distance between them so that he could stop feeling that strange pang in his chest at the thought of her leaving. Oh, are you sure you don't need some help in the kitchen? I've been told I'm a mean cook. This was her reply with a gentle, eager smile. No thanks, I've got it covered, and you just get in the way anyway, Daniel said, trying to tell her that the kitchen was too small for two. Okay, I think we should leave that there for now. Let's just go to our scripture of the day. Our scripture of the day comes from 1 Corinthians 14 verse 1, which says, Follow after love and earnestly desire spiritual gifts, but especially that you may prophesy. What I believe that God is trying to say is, follow God and be kind to each other. Ask God for spiritual gifts that will help you with your life, with your decisions, and whatever area of ministry you want to be a part of. And just ask God for ways to help you be kinder and speak life to other people in their situations. To prophesy means to proclaim or mention, call or summon. So what I really feel that God is saying here is that He wants us to be so close to Him that He can reveal His heart for people and our situations to us. Isn't it great that God wants to help us with things that we are going through? Anyway, thanks for reading with me. All my socials are linked in the description and my books are available on Wattpad. Have a lovely day. Bye!